Congratulations. Well, everyone, I have a big announcement. I finished my backlog. Anyway, after about roughly 570 episodes and many consoles, versions, downloads, emulators, trials, tribulations, and setting up new things, eBay haggling, pretty much everything in my backlog has been complete. And so I'm here to celebrate myself and cheers to all of those who have completed their backlogs as well. And so it's been quite a while. I'll add in a caveat here that, of course, there are some games that, kind of coming out of the future. There's some things on the Switch 2 and PS5 I kind of want to get into, but in terms of all the things that were always in the back of my mind, the true backlog, games on the PS2 and PS1 from the 90s and early 2000s, when I'd argue the golden age from 1990 to 2010 was, those games were always on my radar. People were still talking about them, still referencing them, still delving into if the game still holds up today. And I now stand in a state where that is no longer a question or an issue for me. I have conquered all that can be conquered. I have seen all the horizons. I have experienced every horizon, beachfront, and story scenario that I consider to be of value. And now I have the full repertoire to kind of compare it to what we have today, and if it really holds up, if things are really truly as bad as they are now, which, well, they kind of are. But there is hope. I have, a few games on my radar that I see and I recognize, but it feels good, essentially, to be done with it for the most part, because I think the biggest issue that people might not get with this hobby is that these aren't just games, they are experiences. The video part of the video game informs you and instructs you of a story and experience, visual metaphors, things that aren't just communicated through text alone. And it feels like I've indulged and immersed myself and completed a whole medium of art, really. Different genres, different styles, really what I was getting at is the different personas. Certain people grew up with certain games, certain style of games, and I feel that might have really, it directly informed our development, our thinking, our tastes, what we thought is acceptable or unacceptable, and delving into all the possible pathways of being an Xbox kid or a PlayStation kid or a Nintendo kid kind of gave me a full look into the human psyche of other people. You may not think it's that serious, but I think it could be in a lot of cases. Yeah, I think it might be fair to say that by telling someone that there's some guy who only plays FIFA and Call of Duty, he's a certain kind of person. The guy who plays Final Fantasy and Nier and other FPS and RPG games, he's a different kind of guy as well. And so from just someone telling me what their favorite game is, I can kind of get an insight into exactly who they are. A lot of the games and genres I wouldn't have played, I have played, or at least I've tried. I think a big thing that actually brought me to this moment, to this point where I was able to say I've finished everything I've played, that does include things that I wanted to play, I was interested in, but I strategically dropped for certain reasons. Case in point being Baldur's Gate 3. Fantastic game, great characters, great writing, but I just can't into the CRPG style gameplay. I love Diablo 2, I love StarCraft, which is more RPG, but Baldur's Gate 3 just didn't quite grab me. And so really with the release of Game Pass, that kind of made me start weighing games differently, not as in a money extraction to quality percentage that everyone else had hyped themselves up that has to be gotten from this experience, but instead I was more focused on the time investment. Is this a game that speaks to me? Is it one that I jive with? Is it something I connect with? And for the games that I gave an hour or a fair 2 hours or an hour and a half, and it didn't grab me, then I submit to you, why bother at that point? You know, there are certain games I've been surprised at. I've played RTS games that I love, RTS games that I hate. I've played FPSs that I love and FPSs that I hate. A single genre, unfortunately, isn't quite enough to really define a really good experience or the kind of person that enjoys that experience. And in my own case, I would say more of a narrative game where I'm interested in the story, the feeling, the music, the vibe, the sensation. Sure, the gameplay needs to be good, but if the music's really good and the gameplay is kind of passable, I can get on with that for sure. Also, another strategy I employed was going things by groups. For example, you might do genres, but for me, I did systems and consoles. For me personally, I actually didn't emulate a lot. I only emulated Mother 3 because that's the literally only way I can play it as a Westerner. But I grouped things by console. So I bought everything physical. I used original physical hardware for most things. You know, sometimes a reproduction is necessary, but it's like super expensive. But for the most part, I use physical hardware, you know, the original game saving style, the cartridge, the controller, everything original. And my few strategies, one, I always had everything hooked up. It was always ready to go. I didn't have to pull out controllers out of a box or the game or find it on a shelf. It was always plugged in, always ready to go. And I actually installed a switcher so that a lot of these things run on, you know, one video feed. So I had a switcher that would jump between each feed. And so you had multiple consoles plugged into one switcher, but I'd only use one input. So it was always accessible, always ready to go. And I just worked through things via console. I didn't care if it was an RPG, a racer, or shooter. If it was the next game in my PS1 library, I played it. It was the next game in my PS2 library, I played it. Some examples of some games that I thought I would love, but I didn't. Odin Sphere. I've heard so many great things about Odin Sphere over the years, and I thought it would be similar to Muramasa the Demon Blade, and I got into it, and I just don't care. Like, I just don't like the gameplay, I don't like the story, I don't like the characters, I'm just not interested. And you kind of realize that some people at some point like this thing, maybe because they were a very specific type of person. Maybe they were a person who only plays racing games and this is just another racing game that does something slightly differently to them. I'm not really like that. One of my favorite racing games is Need for Speed Rivals, and I know most Need for Speed people hate that game because it's kind of unrealistic, and that's kind of why I really, really like it. Using a shockwave or an EMP to blast a car off a mountain in a giant explosion is one of the best feelings ever. I love that kind of stuff. I don't really like realism in my games, but other people do. And so, you know, my backlog might look different from someone else's backlog. You know, there's a lot of people who might contend with things and dive into systems and, you know, explore things more. And again, I'm not against that. You know, the sphere grid in Final Fantasy X was cool, but that's not the reason I'm there. It's a fun system to investigate, but some games that are specifically around crafting and like things like Factorio, no offense to Factorio players, but I'm sure it's a good game. It's just something I have no interest in doing. I really have no interest in something that is for lack of a word, a self-fulfilling meta-narrative where you kind of write your own story through the gameplay and there's no structure to it. I'm sure the mechanics and the systems are interesting and cool to work with, but that's not my reason for playing games. It's to get an experience that is like a vacation or a trip or a journey, a piece of history, something, a piece of art, maybe something, you know, like Castlevania and referencing Vlad Tepes and, you know, at least learning something through history or the world is exposed through the art. It's reflected back at you that you can say, yes, this thing is real and has substance and has flavor and fills you with life and invigoration and curiosity. Case in point, I had never heard about the Byzantium Empire till I played Assassin's Creed Revelations. It was curiously absent from history, and there's a whole there's a whole reason almost of a conspiratorial nature that, during the Enlightenment in England, they kind of wanted to reduce the Greek-style learnings and only invest in the Roman-style ones. There's also a theological debate that they wanted to reduce the fact it was, still a religious empire. And there was one book, I think written by Gibbons, that kind of said, there's no point in studying the Byzantines at all. And my first exposure to that was in a fully fleshed out world of a video game, which immediately said, why haven't we been told about this? And it's just led to an interesting rabbit hole. So yeah, it depends on what kind of games you play, what you're looking to get out of them. But ultimately, I want to go into a game and get an experience, an emotion, a song, an image, a symbol that I can carry with me beyond the game. It's not just something that's supposed to be played with and thrown away like a toy. It's supposed to be something that plants a seed in you and grows some kind of idea. And I know this all sounds incredibly pretentious at the beginning of this medium, but to say and discard all of the effort and artistry that has gone into this craft is just as insane as saying that it's the greatest experience possible. It's somewhere in between. So many people, so many different professions work on a game, and when it comes together, it really works. And when it doesn't come together, it really just doesn't. It all falls apart, and it's a lot more volatile and hostile that way. Speaking of hostility, the nature of the industry, the style of risk reward that is going on is so great and so heavy that creative, interesting risks aren't really being taken anymore. Games are falling into the kind of stereotype that soccer moms would give them in the 90s of just being passing distractions like Fortnite or Minecraft, or no offense to those. Oh, actually, yeah, offense to those fandoms, actually. Especially Fortnite, not Minecraft, though. They can stay. And so games are just becoming passing distractions where no one wants to make something new or take a risk. That's why everything's a remaster, everything's live service, everything's about money. I mean, we live through the corporatalist stage of the medium, much like music did in the, I guess, 80s or 70s, roughly around there. I'd love to have a conversation with someone about that, actually, and kind of compare notes as to the flow of that industry. But yeah, I consider myself a master gamer. I don't have a desire to go out and experience anything that is old anymore, only things that are new and novel, and really challenge people's nostalgia and say, what's something really good? Does it hold up today? And frankly, a lot of stuff does hold up really, really well. And it's very obvious when you play it. But as things go on, I hope to show people, cool things. I hope to give my opinion on future games that I feel are worthy of investment and time and insight, and things that are really have potential. This is not totally all abysmal. There are a few games here and there, but the industry as a whole is kind of slowing down. Everything's becoming gacha slop, or I don't know, some version of an MMO or a live service or something else that just simply is dwindled and reduced, and it just has such little creative impact compared to what came before. And so, yeah, with the rise and fall of this medium, there will eventually be a renaissance, but I'm glad to say that I've kind of conquered and seen what I consider to be the golden age, and I look forward to meeting all the others who also think alike and see the potential and the future in gaming. And yes, Happy New Year. And I hope everyone has a wonderful New Year. And I was actually thinking that it was last year, the beginning of last year, that I thought and I said, you know what? I have almost enough of my backlog that I could finish it. And so I pursued that, and I accomplished my resolution with 3 weeks to spare. So I am very lucky, very blessed, and I just wanted to say thank you, I guess, to myself. And for the next year resolution, I'm probably going to do a lot of other things like reading and new hobbies probably. But for now, that hobby that has defined my childhood and my adolescence and my early adult life has kind of come to a close. And so here's, cheers to me, cheers to you, and to everyone else working on your backlog, I'd say good luck and good night. Take care.